During dessert, my father told our daughter that she should give her birthday bike to her cousin. "She'll appreciate it more," he said. My daughter's smile faded. Then my husband stood up and said this. My parents turned pale. My father tried to take my daughter's birthday present away from her during dessert. Not later. Not privately. Right there at the table while she was still finishing her cake. Even now it sounds unbelievable when I say it out loud, but that was exactly how the dinner at my parents' house fell apart. It was supposed to be a normal Sunday visit. My husband Mark and I drove over with our 10-year-old daughter Lily like we had done 100 times before. My mother cooked too much food as usual, my father talked about the news, and Lily kept bringing up the one thing she had been excited about for 2 weeks. Her new bike. It was bright blue with a little basket on the front. Mark spent half a day assembling it in the garage after her birthday. Lily rode it around the neighborhood every single day since. During dinner she kept talking about how she could now ride all the way to the park with her friends. My father barely reacted while she talked. He just listened with that quiet expression he always had when he thought kids were getting too much. I noticed it but ignored it. I had been ignoring that look for years. Then dessert came. My mom put chocolate cake on the table and everyone got quiet for a minute. Lily was still smiling, still excited, telling my mom how she wanted to decorate the bike basket with ribbons. That's when my father suddenly looked at her and said, "You know, your cousin Emily doesn't have a bike." Lily nodded politely. "She only sees Emily once a year." My father took another bite of cake and added, "You should give yours to her. She'd appreciate it more." First I thought he was joking. But nobody laughed. Lily stopped moving her fork. Her smile disappeared slowly like someone had turned off a light. She looked at him and said, "But, it was my birthday bike." My father shrugged. "You already have a lot of things." I felt my stomach tighten immediately, because this wasn't the first time he had said something like that to her. For years he made small comments about Lily being too spoiled. About how kids needed to learn not to get attached to things. I usually let it go because arguing with him always turned into a long, exhausting fight. But this time he said it directly to my daughter. Lily looked at me quietly and asked, "Do I have to give it away?" Before I could answer, my father spoke again. "If you want to be a good cousin." The table went quiet again. Then I heard Mark place his fork down on his plate. Fully. He pushed his chair back and stood up. Everyone looked at him. Mark had tolerated my father for years, but something about what just happened clearly crossed a line. He looked straight at my dad and said, "Frank, you don't get to decide what my daughter gives away." The room instantly went silent. My father stared at him, confused. But Mark wasn't finished speaking, and what he said next made both of my parents turn completely pale. Mark didn't sit back down. He stayed standing at the table looking directly at my father. For a moment nobody moved. My mother looked between them like she was trying to guess how bad this was about to get. My father finally set his fork down. "What's that supposed to mean?" he asked. Mark answered immediately. "It means you don't tell my daughter she has to give away her birthday present." Lily was sitting very still, staring at her plate. My father gave a short laugh. "Relax. I'm teaching her generosity." "You're not teaching her anything," Mark said. "You're taking something from her that she just got." My father leaned back in his chair. "Kids these days have too much. When Anna was little she shared everything." That was the first moment I spoke. "No, I didn't." My father looked at me like I had interrupted something important. "Yes, you did." "No," I said again. "You took things from me and gave them to other people." The room went quiet again. My mother shifted in her chair. "Anna, that's not what happened." "But it was. When I was 11, my father made me give my brand new roller skates to my cousin because his parents couldn't afford them. A year later he gave away my guitar to a neighbor's kid who wanted to learn music. I remember crying in my room while he explained that good children didn't get attached to things. I had almost forgotten those moments until he said the same thing to Lily. Mark nodded toward Lily. "She's 10 years old," he said. "She waited months for that bike." My father waved his hand like it was nothing. "Emily doesn't have one." Mark stared at him for a second. Then he asked something that made the entire table freeze. "So that's why you've been asking us for money the last 6 months?" My father's face changed instantly. My mother looked confused. "What money?" Mark didn't take his eyes off my dad. "The money he said he needed for house repairs." My father sat up straight. "That has nothing to do with this." But Mark kept going. You told us the roof needed fixing. Then the water heater. Then the driveway. My mother slowly turned toward my father. Frank, what is he talking about? My father didn't answer right away. And suddenly I realized something was very wrong. Because Mark reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out his phone and placed it on the table. I checked something yesterday, he said. My father went completely still. Then Mark said the sentence that made my parents both turn pale. You didn't spend that money on repairs. The entire table froze after Mark said that. My father didn't move. My mother looked back and forth between them like she had just realized she missed half of a conversation. What do you mean he didn't? She asked. Mark kept his phone on the table but didn't unlock it yet. For the last 6 months Frank has been asking us for money almost every month, he said. My mother turned to my father. You told me Anna and Mark offered to help. My father didn't answer. That alone made my stomach drop. Mark continued. He said the roof needed fixing in September. Then the water heater in October. Then the driveway in December. My father finally spoke. I needed help. So what? Mark shook his head. No, you didn't. My father's expression hardened. Watch your tone. But Mark didn't stop. I checked the property records yesterday. That sentence made my father shift in his chair. My mother blinked. Property records? Mark unlocked his phone and turned the screen slightly so everyone could see. You didn't spend the money on repairs, he said. You used it as a down payment. My mother leaned closer to the phone. For what? Mark looked directly at my father again. A car. The silence in the room felt heavy. My father looked at the table for a moment and then said, So what if I did? My mother stared at him. Frank, what car? Mark answered before he could. A car for Emily. Lily looked up for the first time since the conversation started. My mother shook her head slowly. That doesn't make sense. Emily is 15. Mark nodded. Exactly. My father suddenly stood up. That's none of your business. Mark didn't move. You asked us for the money, he said. My father's voice got louder. I'm helping my granddaughter. Mark gestured toward Lily, still sitting quietly at the table. You already have one. My father looked at Lily for a second. Then he said something that made the air in the room feel colder. Emily needs help more than she does. Lily lowered her eyes again. That was the moment Mark reached over and gently moved Lily's plate away from her. Then he looked at my father and said something that I knew would change our family forever. Mark rested his hand on Lily's shoulder for a second. Then he looked straight at my father. We're leaving. No one expected it to happen that quickly. My mother immediately stood up halfway from her chair. Wait, let's just calm down. But Mark continued. And after tonight you won't be seeing Lily anymore. The words landed hard in the room. My mother's face lost all color. What? My father stared at him like he had misheard. You don't get to make that decision, he said. Mark didn't raise his voice. I already did. My father turned to me. Anna, say something. I looked at Lily first. She was sitting quietly, pushing crumbs around her plate with her finger. She hadn't touched the rest of her cake. That was enough for me. I agree with him, I said. My father blinked like I had just said something ridiculous. You're serious? Yes. My mother shook her head quickly. This is getting out of control. But Mark kept going. For years we've ignored the comments. The lectures. The way you treat her like she doesn't deserve the things she has. My father scoffed. Oh please. Mark continued. Tonight you tried to guilt a 10-year-old into giving away her birthday present. It was a suggestion. No, Mark said. It wasn't. My father folded his arms. Kids need to learn generosity. Mark nodded once. And adults need to learn boundaries. The room went quiet again. My mother looked desperate now. Frank didn't mean it like that. Mark turned slightly toward her. And the money? She hesitated. That's different. No, Mark said. It isn't. My father grabbed the back of his chair. You're blowing this out of proportion. Mark looked at him calmly. You asked us for thousands of dollars while planning to buy a car for someone else. My father snapped back immediately. Emily actually appreciates help. The moment he said that, I felt something in me finally break. Mark looked at Lily again, then back at my father. Then you can ask Emily to help you from now on. My father frowned. What's that supposed to mean? Mark picked up his jacket from the back of the chair. It means the financial help stops today. My father's face changed immediately. What? The money, Mark said. The monthly transfers. The repairs. All of it. My father stared at him. You can't be serious. Mark opened the door behind us. I'm completely serious. For the first time that evening, my father actually looked worried. As he realized something. Mark wasn't bluffing. And what he said next proved it. My father's confidence disappeared almost instantly. What do you mean it stops? He asked. Mark didn't sit back down. He stood by the door with his jacket in his hand. It means exactly what it sounds like, he said. No more money. My mother looked completely confused. What money are you talking about every month? That question made the room even quieter. My father rubbed his forehead. It's not every month. Mark answered before he could continue. Yes, it is. My mother slowly sat back down. How much? Nobody answered right away. Then Mark said the number. $3,000. My mother's head snapped toward my father. Every month. My father started talking quickly. It's temporary. I told you the house needed work. Mark shook his head. The house doesn't need anything. I had a contractor look at it last week. My father looked stunned for a moment. You did what? Mark didn't react. He said the roof is fine. The plumbing is fine. Everything you told us about was false. My mother looked like she had just discovered a stranger sitting at the table instead of her husband. Frank, where did the money go? My father hesitated. That's not the point. It is the point, she said. Mark spoke again. You used part of it for the down payment on that car for Emily. My father tried to dismiss it. I'm helping family. Mark gave a small nod. And we were helping you. For the first time all evening my father looked nervous. Look, we can figure this out, he said. But Mark was already walking toward Lily. Put your jacket on, he told her. She stood up quietly. My mother looked at me. Anna, please don't do this. But I had already made up my mind. My father suddenly changed his tone. You're really going to punish me over a bike? Mark stopped near the door and turned back. No, he said. This isn't about the bike. My father waited. Then Mark said the sentence that made the entire room feel heavy again. It's about the fact that you've been treating our daughter like she matters less than everyone else for years. My father opened his mouth to argue. But before he could say anything, Lily said something from behind us that none of us expected to hear. And it made the situation even worse. Lily had already put on her jacket when she spoke. Her voice was quiet, but everyone in the room heard it. Grandpa doesn't like me. The words just hung there. My father immediately reacted. That's not true. But Lily continued before anyone else could speak. You always give my things away. Nobody moved. She looked at him for a moment and added, You did it with my puzzle last year. I had forgotten about that. He got that puzzle for Christmas. A few weeks later my father took it and gave it to a neighbor's kid because he thought Lily was done with it. At the time I convinced her it wasn't a big deal. Now I realized she remembered everything. My father tried to laugh it off. You weren't using it anymore. Lily didn't argue. She just said another sentence. You like Emily more. My mother covered her mouth. My father looked completely unprepared for that. That's ridiculous, he said. But Lily had already turned toward the door where Mark was standing. I want to go home. Mark opened the door. Okay. My father finally started sounding desperate. Anna, this is insane. You're going to cut me off because a child misunderstood something. I looked at him for a long moment. No, I said. This is happening because she understood it perfectly. My mother stood up. We can fix this. Mark shook his head. This should have been fixed years ago. My father followed us toward the door now. You're overreacting. Families argue. That's normal. Mark helped Lily step outside. Then he turned back one last time. You told a 10-year-old to give away her birthday present because someone else would appreciate it more. My father tried to interrupt. Mark continued. And you used thousands of dollars we gave you while lying about why you needed it. My father's voice got quieter. We can talk about this. Mark nodded once. We just did. Then he added the sentence that ended everything. Don't contact us again. My father stood there in the hallway like he didn't understand what had just happened. We walked to the car and drove home. That was 8 months ago. Since then he has called dozens of times, sent long messages, even showed up at our house once asking to see Lily. But Mark blocked his number after that. And honestly, the strangest part of all this is what Lily said a few weeks after that dinner. One evening she was riding her blue bike down the driveway and stopped next to me. Then she said something that made me realize we made the right decision. "Mom," she said, "now Sundays feel peaceful."